Welcome back. This is MACT Ford Edge, and I'm MACT, and we're going to be going over, so you want to buy a used Ford Edge. We're going to cover what you need to know when looking.
Welcome back to MACT Video. This is a Mercy Go production.
I'm making this video just to stress some points on it, and I want to relate some information for the 2007 through 2010 and the 2011 through 2014 Ford Edge, front-wheel drive, all-wheel drive. I have primarily owned front-wheel drive Ford Edges, and I'm going to speak to my experiences because I have owned three. I had a 2008, and now I own two 2011s. I have total accumulated miles of these Edges, well over 520,000 miles of maintenance and operating experience so far. So I've learned a lot about driving these vehicles and how to keep them running. And I'm gonna say, you gotta maintain them. If you take care of them, they will run. And that goes for about anything mechanical, really. But there are certain little things that you do want to pay attention to. And by all means, follow along for what I'm going to explain. Onward! Hey, you want to buy a used Ford Edge. What do I look for? A lot of different things that you want to make sure you pay attention to. And one, of course, is we're going to start out with the engine, transmission, fluids, things like that you really need to look for, and some of the ins and outs. Now keep in mind, you got the 2007 through 2010 Ford Edge. What does it have? Well, having been a previous owner of a 2008 that I took to 285,000 miles before I traded it in, I learned a lot about the Ford Edge and taking and working on that, as you can see in some of my previous videos. Now, that being said, a lot of different things happened. The 2007 through the 2010 now, I believe, Ford Edge does have a fuel tank recall, so you want to make sure you double check all the recall information on the 2007 through 2010 model years to make sure that you got that information. And you can do it a couple different ways. I'll put the links down below, and so you can figure out how to do it. But Ford has a VIN number site that you can type in a VIN number, or you can simply drive to your nearest Ford dealer, give them the VIN number, and they'll look it up for free. No charge, and they'll tell you if there's any recalls and whether or not they've even been performed, because they do document them. So that is one way to, of course, check it out. There's other ways to find vehicle histories, like different car services that you can pay for to get information on this base model. Now, as far as when you start looking for a Ford Edge, you want to decide, first of all, what do I want? Okay, the Ford Edge in the 2007 through 2010 model year really only came with two engines, and that was the 3.5 Duratec and the 3.7 for the sport models. Okay, so the sport models, go there. Now, they also have two different powertrains. They had the front-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a student, if you don't have a very big budget or anything like that, you might want to stay away from the all-wheel drive. One, takes more gas. Two, anything all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive costs more to maintain. So, that being said, stick with the front-wheel drive. Very little maintenance compared to all the other systems. And also, you won't break the bank on it, because the earlier PTUs on the 2007 through 2010 are very prone to failure, and that is a costly fix, and most people can't afford that in a lot of ways because it strains our budgets. So front wheel drive, way to go on that. But as far as what you're looking for in that 2007 and through 2010 first generation Ford Edge, is you're looking to make sure that all the fluids and everything are taken care of. And how do I know what fluids look like and what to check for when I'm looking for that used Ford Edge? Well, here we're going to go ahead and show you what we're really looking for. Look who just got home. All right.
Hello.
What do you think we're doing today?
Oh, are you recording something?
We're making a video, aren't we?
Oh, all right. Daddy's making a video.
You gonna help me?
You gonna help Papa?
Gonna help me? Okay, I got my camera girl here to help me out. All right. But anyway, when we first start looking at the Ford Edge, one thing that we do want to do is we want to check the battery out. Okay, if you got a 2007 through 2010 you're looking for, and it's 2016, that stands to say that battery's got 6 years on it. So if it is an original Motorcraft battery in there, flag, you might want to see if it's an updated Motorcraft that's been replaced or how old that battery is, and that's just standard car logic there. The next thing you want to do is you want to check the fluid. You want to check that brake fluid, make sure that it's clear, and if it's not clear and it is starting to turn brown or black, you want to make sure that you have a red flag on that, because brown or black brake fluid, of course, will be another problem that you're going to deal with, because that means that fluid has never been changed. And if it's a 2008, it stands to reason that that fluid is a good age and needs to be fixed, because brake fluid holds moisture, and moisture gets into your brake lines, it causes rust. The other thing you want to do is, hey, if they got a dirty air filter, then they're not really doing maintenance on that. And by dirty, I mean it's just completely clogged and nasty. A little black ain't going to necessarily be an issue. You also want to go back through and you want to check all the other engine components on here. Stop and see if you can get some sort of information. If it's got over 100,000 miles on it, the plug should have been changed at least once, because they're supposed to be changed at 90,000 miles. So if they can't show you that they did change the plugs, then of course that is another flare for you to know that, hey, I'm going to have to spend some money on this vehicle. Now you can also check the oil, and you want to make sure that the oil is in good condition. And as you can see, this oil is really an amber color, not too bad. So you want to make sure that you do check the oil in this. Now keep in mind, folks, I'm talking about a different model year than what this one is. This is a 2011 refresh, and of course it has the plastic valve covers compared to the aluminum. Now moving over, we have our power steering fluid. Now when you check the power steering fluid should be red. It should not be any other color than red. And if it is black, that means they have not changed the power steering fluid and done no maintenance to it. Now on the 2007 through 2010 Ford Edge, there will be two different colors of fluid as a rule. Now your coolant, of course, started out as a yellow coolant in the 2007 through about the 2008 range. Then I think it was like January or so, they decided to change it out and remove it. And they do have a TSB on this yellow fluid that they originally put in there. And of course they call for a full flushing, your heater core and everything else, to get that fluid out of there and replace it with this, what they call a green or dark green special fluid. And of course, so look at your edge. If it's a 2007 and it has the green in it, that means they either flushed it or they just emptied it out and dumped the green in there. There's no guarantee on that, but that is a difference on the coolants. They did switch over to the orange fluid later on in the years up in for the Edge. So just keep in mind, as you get the newer Edges, you're going to start seeing the orange fluid, but for a good period of time, the dark green fluid was the noted coolant of choice in the Ford Edge. But your 2008 might have that yellow in there. So if it does, that is also a corrosion issue that was causing heater core issues and all that stuff. So you may want to make sure that's a flare that you deal with as far as deciding if you want to buy that used Ford Edge. then of course you want to make sure you do check out your AC. Now, how can you know if the AC is working? One, run the engine. Make sure that both fans turn on and that the AC is in operation. And that is a pretty simple check. Let it warm up, and if turn the AC on, and if the fans are working, then you're good to go. Now, of course, you do want to go ahead and check your Ford Edge out when you start it up, and you want to make sure both fans are in operation when you got the AC running, and making sure that that is, of course, in good shape. One other thing I did forget to mention is that early 2011 models, for about a window of 90 days, did have a valve body TSB put out on them, and what was happening with that valve body is that it was causing a slow start or a spinning start. In other words, the engine RPMs would increase, and of course the Edge would not move, and then it would catch and start moving. Very simple fix. They just replaced the valve body is all it really amounts to. But like I said, it's only a 90-day window for your January or through February models, I believe it was. Very short window as far as that valve body issue. But again, you check those fans, making sure that they're all working and that they're running to, of course, cool the AC and cool the engine at the same time. Check your windshield wipers and everything, and make sure everything is running good with the engine. You check the AC, of course, to make sure that it is running cool and that the engine is idle, and no warning lights, of course, are displayed in the Ford Edge. You just check them off and go through. And what you can do to try to check a few things is you go through the menu and you go to the information menu, and then you can, of course, check and see if there's any warnings. You can do a system check, and then of course go through, you check the oil life if they're doing that, fluid, lights, and then of course brakes and everything else that would be on there. Now once you check everything that is okay, then of course you are good to go with that. But just keep in mind, you can check the mileage, fuel economy. If you're curious what the fuel economy on it has been through its tank, it will tell you what it's averaging currently on its mileage. But there are a lot of different things on the My Ford Touch. I'm not going to go through. Ford puts out a lot of good videos on that. But you do want to check it all out. Want to make sure it is working good, and of course everything is functional. Now, some other things that you want to make sure you check is the transmission fluid, and that is right down there. That transmission fluid should be nice and red also. If it is a dark black color, keep in mind that needs to be changed. And if they cannot verify that it hasn't been changed and the vehicle has over 100,000 miles on it, then that is also another flare for you, because once it gets over 100,000 miles, that transmission fluid is pretty much getting done, because the rough service life, or what they call severe service life, of the transmission fluid is roughly about 30 to 50,000 miles. And I don't know too many people that drive their vehicles under the normal service driving conditions. And if this vehicle has a trailer hitch on it, then that transmission fluid will have to be changed at 30,000 miles, because towing trailers is very hard on the transmission. So just keep that in mind. Other things that you do want to make sure you look at: make sure all the wiring and components are, of course, good, and then of course you have your motor mounts and everything that you want to check. Now, as you can see and hear, this Ford Edge is running. There's a slight little tick sound, of course, injectors and everything else running. But keep in mind, this is a normal sound for the engine, and is nothing abnormal about it. This is pretty much how it's going to sound, and being this engine has almost 150,000 miles on it, I would say it's running pretty good. And of course, you want to make sure it is running well. Headlights, of course, match. That's one other thing. Does that headlight look newer than that headlight? Another indication there may have been an accident on one side or the other. And then, of course, also, do the headlights really look really nice? That means it has front end damage and that had been in an accident. Other things that you may also want to check are other things along the body lines to make sure all seams and crevices, of course, are in good condition. And of course, if your window's cracked, That's a $300 repair bill right there. So you want to make sure you watch that. Moving on to the tires. Now, right here, as you can see on the tires, one thing you can notice on the tires is if there are cuff marks or cupping going on here, that tells you the shocks are probably worn. So if this vehicle has over 100,000 miles on it and the shocks are not working anymore, it'll start cupping the inside rib of the tire, and that will be an indication that the shocks are worn. And you can check the shocks by simply looking at them and seeing if they've been changed. If they say Motorcraft and they're all rusty, then that tells you they're original shocks. By the time you get to 100,000 miles with these shocks, you need to definitely change them shocks. So that's another thing you can add onto your tally list of things that need to be fixed or repaired when you're working on your Edge. Other things that might help you decide is the dealer or person I'm buying from take care of the Ford Edge that you're in. Now the 2007 through 2010, of course, have a glove box, and inside that glove box there's a filter back behind there. So you want to take this glove box out, and you can see that in some of my other videos. You want to check that filter, because even though they say, yeah, we did a 10-point or 100-point inspection, I have discovered that they neglect to change that. So if they neglect to change something as minor as a cabin air filter, what else did they neglect? Now, of course, we start looking up here into the engine and start checking it out. Now, if you start seeing any type of fluids back here, I'm going to tell you what some of these are. Now, back over into the back side here where the transmission meets up with the engine, if you start getting a lot of oil around that transmission torque mount right there, right in this area, that really is an indication, if it's a high mileage Edge, say with 200,000 miles on it, that you're going to have a rear main seal leak. And of course that means a lot of money to fix that. So you want to make sure you check that and make sure it's all dry. Also, you look up underneath on the power steering rack, that is of course further back, and you can check that to see if there's any leaking on the power steering at all, to make sure that that is good and solid as far as that goes with the Edge. Other things are, you can check and make sure on the 2000 through 2010, mileage wise, remember that turbine shaft speed sensors and the output shaft speed sensors, of course, are prone for failure anywhere from 80 to 160,000 miles. So you do want to make sure you check that out. Of course, oil filters and everything else going along with that. You do want to check your tires. You want to check the tires to make sure they're wearing properly, no cupping or anything going on there. And again, you want to check the shocks. So go up underneath there and check those shocks to make sure everything is good. And then of course the tone rings on the vehicle to make sure that they're not broken. A lot of different things you're going to be looking for to make sure that this is, of course, going to be a good vehicle for you or your family. Now, as you're looking up underneath here, you do want to make sure you inspect for all these leaks and everything else. And as you can see on this 2011, everything is in a pretty good condition as far as engine oil leaks or anything going on. So in retrospect, of course, as they get older, they start leaking. So you do want to pay attention to those items. Of course, that's where the sweet spot is. It's where all the technology really started. And as you can tell in this following segment right here, this is how you tell whether or not that head unit's been replaced and whether or not you got a new one. Simple phone call and you can get it done.
Thanks for calling Sirius XM.
Help with radio.
Okay. Hold on while I transfer you to listener care.
Thank you very much for calling Sirius XM. This is Marcela. How can I assist you?
Yes, I'm calling because I wanted to check to see if this vehicle that I own has ever had another SID number registered to it.
Okay, sir, of course, I can check on the account to see that. Right now, I have your account right here. Can you give me your first and last name and full address, sir, to confirm the account?
My name is Bill. And do you want my address?
That is correct, sir.
34.
Thank you very much, Bill. Now, so you're telling me you want to know if you have a different radio ID on the account than in your vehicle, right?
Yes.
Okay, sir, I have here a radio under an Edge, and it says Edge Lulu Bill, and then the radio ID is 04089738.
Okay, has this vehicle ever had another Sirius radio registered to it?
Okay, let me check on that. I do see that there was an old radio ID here, which is 414548864652. Old radio ID.
It's an old radio ID to this vehicle then.
Yes, sir.
So folks, as you can tell, if you are searching and wanting to find out, is this the original head unit in a used Ford Edge, you can call Sirius XM and ask them to search the records for the vehicle and verify whether or not the head unit has been replaced. And this is very important for the first generation 1.5 builds for the MyFordTouch Microsoft Sync system that had some issues. So when buying a used one, just simply give Sirius XM a call, work through the system, and you'll find out, did they change the radio and is it updated? Because that makes a big difference, because these head units right here are $1,000 to replace. So if you're buying a used Ford Edge model year 2011 through 2012 or so, it pays to make that call, because otherwise you could end up holding the bill for the $1,000 repair. All right, again, as far as what you're looking for when you take and go through the Ford Edge, you want to look to make sure that whatever is going on, you take and look, have they added any additions onto the Edge, such as extra electrical wire and everything else. Keep in mind that these things have a lot of electronics already on them, and that adding other things like remote starts, aftermarket alarms, and things like that can definitely cause further electrical issues later on. So you might want to be wary of that. But as with all things, you also want to make sure that you do check the engine compartment out again, making sure that the battery is in good shape, color of the fluids is correct like I previously described, has not changed. But keep in mind, the 1.5 refresh on the Ford Edge has really not changed, but there are a few differences. They did start to introduce the 3.5 in a remodified version, gave it a little bit more torque and horsepower. They also took and made a few other changes inside that were quite dramatic as far as the style and function of the inside, and along with the front grille change. So that's how you know you got that 1.5 refresh. Other than that, the 3.5 has remained virtually the same as the older 3.5, but they did add an IVCT to it, which is independent variable cam timing, and they do have that added there for better fuel mileage and, of course, horsepower increases. But other than that, it is basically the same engine. Now again, 2011-14, you may find the original Motorcraft battery still in the vehicle. If it is, then it's probably getting close to being near its age if it was an earlier model like the 2011. But check that battery out and make sure. Again, brake fluid, same situation for brake fluid. If it is discolored, of course you want to make sure you do it. By all means, check the maintenance records with the dealer or with whoever's buying it, and then of course verify if you want by paying for a service. Again, when you go to the 2011, you will find that you do have the, of course, the bluish antifreeze in there, and that of course will indicate that is the original antifreeze. you do want to make sure you look for the telltale stickers. What kind of maintenance has been done? A lot of garages will place stickers such as this one. It tells me when my transmission was last flushed at 123,000 miles. And then of course on the antifreeze it is also marked that it was flushed approximately, I don't know, it looks like here about a year ago. So the antifreeze has been taken care of. Oil changes, of course, can be documented through a lot of different places along with the transmission flushes. But you also want to make sure the brake fluid and everything is good. Now once you've checked everything out, depending on the miles on the Ford Edge, on the 2011 through 2014, the mileage references are pretty much the same. 90,000 miles for the spark plug. So if it's up near 90,000, then you might be thinking, well, did they change the plugs or didn't they? If they did not, then of course if you can't do it yourself, that's about a $500 or $600 bill to go ahead and get those spark plugs changed. Other things, belts and things like that on them, once you start getting up above 100,000 miles, you really want to start checking those belts. The belts that are on these Ford Edges, of course, are two. You have the power steering stretchy belt, which of course there's no adjustment to, and there's a technique in installing it. And then you have the serpentine belt, which is reasonably easy to remove, just like any other serpentine belt. So you want to check that out. The other thing you want to check out as they get the mileage on them and everything like that, of course, is how it does drive. How's the powertrain going? Early model 2011s, very short window on those, did have a valve body issue to them, and there was a TSB put out on that. But keep in mind that valve body job is probably about a $600 or $700 job if it was never performed and you're having lagging shifts or free spinning and then catching. That would be it. But it's only like a 90 to 120 day window on the manufacturer of the 2011s initially. Now, as far as you're going with anything else, you want to make sure you do check out. There was, of course, other aftermarket stuff that you want to make sure you check on, such as trailer hitches and things like that, because that will change your fluid change intervals for the oil and also for your transmission fluid. Other than that, again, standard things you looked at in the previous part of this video as you look for that tire wear and everything that you're going to be going for. But you also check the body lines, headlights, and everything else and make sure they're all in good shape. And then, of course, you go to MACTFORDEDGE and you, of course, can take and ask us questions about any type of maintenance issues or anything of that nature. Now, moving on, I talked about the front wheel drives, okay? Now we're going to talk about the all-wheel drives. If you're going to buy a Ford Edge all-wheel drive, keep in mind that, again, like I told you, if your budget is not able to withstand a all-wheel drive vehicle because it costs more in gas and costs more in maintenance, the power transfer unit is $1,600 if you fail to maintain that and also do not change the fluid in it. Now, when you go to check and buy this Ford Edge, you want to make sure, just like the 2007 through 2010, you go and check and make sure, one, is that PTU been serviced? Now, they say they can't be serviced, but again, if you're buying one with 60 to 100,000 miles on it, just keep in mind that if that fluid has never been changed, I hope you have $1,600 handy to repair it, because that's what you're going to be doing. They do not last forever. It is not a lifetime fluid, so I can't stress enough. If you're buying a used Ford Edge, be very careful of the PTU. Make sure that it has been changed, the fluid is up to date, and has been changed roughly about every 10,000 miles or so. Otherwise, you're buying a time bomb waiting to explode. But overall, the Ford Edge all-wheel drive and the front-wheel drive are very good vehicles. You got a lot of different things to look for, but this goes for the whole scale of all vehicles that you're going to be working and looking for. So pay attention to the details on it, and by all means, take your time. This is not the only Ford Edge that's on the lot, folks. Make sure you hunt them down. Take your time. This is not an investment in your future, but it is an investment in what you want to take and drive, and also you want to make sure that it is economical for ownership. Now, as with all things, I do want to add one thing. Whatever you're buying a used vehicle, I can't tell you what the price is going to be. The price is between you and the dealer, okay? but I am trying to tell you what to look for, how to negotiate things to make sure things are good. If you want to buy an extended warranty, I'm against them, but you can make your decision about what you want to do, and then see if you can afford to do that or not afford to do it. But overall, the Ford Edge, like I said, I cannot stress enough that it is a great vehicle. Well, folks, that about wraps it up for a little bit explaining on the Ford Edge and how to buy one that's used. There's far more things to it, folks. Take your Ford Edge to a trusted mechanic and have it given a once-over. But be involved. Be involved in the inspection. Ask questions, okay? The dealers are not there to make you happy. They're there to sell that vehicle, and they will do whatever they got to do. So, you know, I'm saying you might trust your dealer, but you can only trust but verify, right? Trust but verify. So make sure that you do follow what you know in your heart and your mind to be the right thing for a Ford Edge. But that being said, it's raining, and I'm trying to shoot a video in the rain right now before it gets too bad. So I do want you all to know that every day your feet hit the ground is a great day, folks. And I'm having a great day, and I want you to also have one. But remember, whatever you do, you want to go over here to Facebook, and of course hit that like button, because at Facebook we have a lot of different folks on there that will help answer your Ford Edge questions. We cover all the models and everything, so if you got a question, feel free to ask and just join the page. The other thing is, go over to YT. Yep, the old big YT. Join, subscribe to YT, MACT Ford Edge, and of course get the videos online through your email, notifications, and everything else that you need in order to carry on and learn more about the Ford Edge and what's going on. And with that, we are going to call it a close on this video, and Mercy Grill, of course, will provide you with some follow-on instructions.
Thank you, MACT. This is a Mercy Girl production. Thank you for watching MACT's videos, and remember to like and